Okay, hey guys, look who's back. If you're watching this on video, we have a little bit of a new setup because I've moved since the last time I recorded a podcast episode, which was literally like, I don't know, half a year ago. And the only downside to my new apartment is that we are by the freeway, so it's freaking loud in my room, which is why I'm in my living room. If you can still hear weird noises or like hear the sound of my crochet hook, please just don't tell me that because it will haunt me. Now, I think it's really rich of me to say, like, I have a podcast or I had a podcast because I'm pretty sure I have 5 episodes up. Like, girl, that's not a podcast. You just ranted on the internet a few times. Now, there's a few reasons I'm bringing the podcast back, and if you don't care and you want to just hear about why I'm going to die alone, feel free to skip ahead. But I did want to explain my disappearance and subsequent reappearance. I mean, a big reason was because I asked on my Instagram story what kind of YouTube videos y'all wanted to see, because, I don't know, I've just been feeling a little uninspired recently. I feel like my usual video formats are not doing as well as they used to. And a bunch of you asked for more podcast episodes, like a bunch of you, which I found a little bit surprising. One of the reasons I stopped recording the episodes to begin with is because I felt like they were more community building versus community growing. Like, let me explain what I mean by that. I knew that people who did watch these videos really liked them. I mean, I love reading the comments because a bunch of you found things relatable, and I did find it fulfilling because, look, I understand the concept of a comfort creator where you just enjoy watching someone do their silly little tasks and they're like part of your routine, but I do struggle to see how I'm really changing someone's life with like my crochet vlogs. Whereas with these videos where I discuss more serious topics like dating or career or family, like getting messages that y'all found it helpful, it's probably the most fulfilled I felt as a content creator. I'm like, okay, I'm actually making a difference in someone's life. So that's why I say it's community building, because I feel like it made the relationship between me and you guys a lot stronger, but I don't think it was helping me grow my following. Because the more clickbaity videos that are like, oh, I crocheted a $600 top, or like, I knit a sweater in a day, those are the kind of videos that will end up on someone's homepage or in their suggested videos and helps like bring new people into the community. And especially when I first started doing content full time at the beginning of the year, I was just like really focused on trying to scale and trying to make this a sustainable income as soon as humanly possible. To be transparent, things have not exactly scaled, or they had. You've probably noticed like most of my videos have ads in them now, but it hasn't scaled at the rate I had hoped. Like, the reason I'm bringing the podcast back is not because I make so much money now that I don't have to worry about growing my following. It's more like I have just dissociated from the financial aspect entirely because it stresses me out too much, and I'm trying to be more intuitive and post what I feel like posting, and obviously the type of content that y'all are asking to see. And I mean, I'm still doing my other format videos, so these I kind of view as just like a place for us to hang out. You know, not everything has to go viral. Another reason I'm bringing it back is because your girl has not had the best late summer, early fall. I'm not going to get into what has transpired, and honestly, I don't think the actual events are really that important or relevant. It's more that it just triggered a lot of deep, dark past stuff, or rather stuff that I thought was in my past. What I'm saying is not that I've been going through it and therefore need to come trauma dump on the internet, because that would not be very healthy, I don't think. It's more like, I think when you're going through something and it's fresh, you really know what it feels like, and it's kind of the best time to like talk about it and help people realize that they're not alone in that feeling, if that makes sense. Anyway, that was a very long-winded intro. Let's get into today's actual topic. Now, I was kind of inspired by this trend I saw on TikTok that was like things I'm afraid to admit as a blank-year-old. So for me, it would be 27-year-old. Apparently no one else has seen this trend, so I don't know how popular it actually is. But effectively, it's just listing different things that you are not like proud to admit, but that people probably can find relatable. And I have a lot of these going into 27. I turned 27 like a little over a month ago. Originally, I was like, oh, I can just make this video about a bunch of different topics, but I literally think the episode would be 15 hours long. So today I'm just going to focus on dating, namely the fact that I am single and have pretty much always been single. I'm not going to give you a full rundown of my dating history. I mean, partially because of privacy and also just, I don't know, I don't think it's that relevant. I do sort of summarize my experience with situationships in my situationships episode if you want the tea. But essentially, I have never been in a serious relationship with someone that I could actually see a future with. And I don't think I've ever been in love romantically. I have had love for people, and I have been so unhealthily fixated on people that I couldn't have, so much so that at the time I thought I was in love. But at the end of the day, I don't think I've been in love. And I kind of touch on this in my situationships episode, but a lot of my dating experiences have been intimate in some ways. Like, we play out certain aspects of a relationship, but we avoid anything that is serious relationship coded. So like, I'm not getting flowers or gifts. I'm not like super ingrained in someone's daily routine. I'm not regularly sharing my space with someone. We're not, planning a future together. I guess the important context I should actually start with is what I want romantically. I was always a lover girl, not in the sense that I like Valentine's Day or I'm like really gushy. I mean, you guys probably can tell I'm not very gushy, but I did love rom-coms, and I think rom-coms have ruined me actually. And I always just dreamed of being in a nice, settled relationship. Like, I never envisioned my Sex and the City era where I'm like going out and dating around and living that fun single life. I always just wanted a relationship. I wanted my forever person, and I felt like the sooner the better. I think some of the urgency, I will admit, was ingrained by my mother, and I know she meant no ill intent by it, but I went to college thinking that I needed to meet my husband there because she was like, that's the best time to meet someone. And I very much understand the sentiment. Like, it's a cesspool of people that are the same age, and you're constantly organically meeting new people, and that just happens a lot less after you graduate. But I didn't find anyone in college, and I was already panicking about this at the time that I graduated. And then I didn't find anyone in the 5 to 6 years since college. What I will say is that my desire for a life partner and my willingness to just buy into that narrative is in some ways really sweet, because I wouldn't want any of that if I wasn't the product of a really functional and loving marriage. Like, my parents, they're not the gross, still in love, like teenagers kind of parents at all. That would freak me out. But they have always treated each other with so much love and respect. I've never seen them fight in front of me and my sister. I've never worried about their relationship with each other. And so naturally, I grew up wanting like a stable life partner. And I don't have this fear of, getting married to the wrong person that a lot of my friends have. Most of them, it's not even because their parents got divorced. It's because they're Asian, so they don't get divorced and they just coexist really unhappily. And I honestly feel like that in some ways is harder for a kid to have to see growing up. Okay, sorry, I need to switch colors. Also realizing that I'm gonna run out of this mohair. But yeah, I just wanted to find my person. Like, how some girls dream of their wedding day or popping out babies or, I don't know, becoming a CEO. Sorry, I just think that phrase is so freaking funny. I dreamed of being in love, and not like the flash mobs, grand gestures kind of love, just simple, everyday, beautiful kind of love. Like, oh, I picked up this little $5 knick-knack because it made me think of you kind of love. Or like, I made you dinner because I know you had a tough day at work kind of love. And I know that sounds so simple, especially for like a kid to be thinking of, but it wasn't something I ever took for granted. And it was something like I knew I definitely wanted. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I feel like I put out a very like, I don't need a man, strong, independent woman kind of persona. And I mean, I don't think it's fake. I am independent. I love spending time alone. And well, I've effectively spent my entire life without a romantic partner. So it should be very clear at this point that I don't need one. But that doesn't mean I don't want one. I think a lot of people misinterpret me being happy single as like, I would be fine doing life alone. Let me be clear, I would not be fine Like, as skeptical as I feel about it actually happening, I have always wanted and will continue to want to find this great romantic love and to just do life with someone. And even besides this whole finding love thing, I also just think life is really hard and I'm so tired of taking care of myself. And I just would like to be in my divine feminine and let a man take care of me. Well, obviously my dad takes care of me and my mom and my friends. I have a great support system, okay? I'm not like a lone wolf out here, but you know what I mean. And I also want y'all to know that I have made an honest effort to live up the single life. I have tried like dating around, dating multiple people, doing the casual thing. And you know what? It is such a slay for some people, and I truly respect the grind. But I happen to find it to be a waste of energy and a waste of time and just deeply unfulfilling. And that's all I have to say on that, because honestly, that could be an entire podcast episode of its own. I don't know. The other thing I think people don't realize when I complain about being single is that I am not in a rush to be in a relationship right now. Actually, on the contrary, I spend a lot of time thinking about the fact that for a majority of your life, you're like predominantly spending time with your romantic partner. I don't know, assume like age 35 to death. You're just stuck with this person. And so it's things like living with friends or like going on a girls trip with a bunch of your friends. That's what's gonna go away. Or I don't know, not go away. It gets a lot more difficult to make it happen once everyone settles down. So if anything, I actually feel an urgency to experience those things in my 20s versus like having a boyfriend. It's not that I want it now. It's more so a peace of mind. Are we sure this is ever going to happen kind of thing? Because some of this, I'll admit, is me just like being very type A overachiever Virgo mindset. Like if there's something I want for my life, I'm kind of like, how do I secure and guarantee it as soon as possible? But I've always told my friends, if someone came back from the future and told me, don't worry, you meet the love of your life, I would be like, awesome. I am just going to focus on enjoying my single life. And I really try to live by that mentality, right? Because assuming you do find your person, you're going to look back and be like, why did I waste so much energy stressing about something that was ultimately going to work out anyways? But I don't know. I just don't feel like my odds are looking that good right now. And that kind of leads me into my next thing, which is that I've been trying really hard to find someone. Actually, less so the past few years, because I've been trying to like de-center dating and just take some of the pressure off myself and kind of reverse the scarcity mindset and this sense of urgency, because I was definitely like way too high strung about finding a husband when I was in my early 20s to a point that was like not reasonable. But you know, I have some friends who are very like, why would I want something serious until I'm 30, you know? And those friends, they're not looking for anything serious. So it's very easy for them to tell themselves like, once that's what I want, it won't be hard to find. Whereas I have actively been on the prowl since I was 18, first day of college. I was like, where is my freaking husband? I'm only kind of exaggerating. So I have put in so much work and time and energy at this point to no avail. If anything, things are only beginning to look more and more dismal. So it's very difficult for me to have a positive outlook that it's gonna all work out. Like I'm very bearish, if you want a finance term. And I'm also a pretty rational person. Like I'm not delusional. I'm not a dreamer. I've talked about this in previous episodes. Y'all know this about me. So if we look at things logically, how am I supposed to believe that it's going to happen for me? Like, you know, when they run the numbers and they're like, oh, you want a single man in this area between these ages who makes like at least this much money and is this height and above. And then they're like, that means you have 4.2 options. Okay, obviously it's not that bad. There are a ton of people in New York. But, and okay, this is kind of a hot take. Not everyone agrees with me on this, but I feel like men my age in New York, so I don't know, like 27 plus, if they're single, it's either because they still want to be single or because nobody wants them. Like you've got these men who are 35 and still have figuring out my relationship type on Hinge. Like, your hairline is receding. You are going to be figuring out your freaking funeral before you figure out your relationship type. And then you have the people who are ready to marry you tomorrow. Like, they have one foot down the aisle, but they just don't bring a lot to the table. So no one wants to join them down the aisle, respectfully. I just feel like if you are an eligible bachelor with moderate to above average Riz in New York, you're not going to be floating around on the market that long, assuming a relationship is actually what you want. I mean, this is also assuming you know how to treat a woman. Sometimes I meet someone and I'm like, why are you single? And then I talk to them for a few more weeks and I'm like, actually, I'm beginning to see why you were single and I'm going to put you back where I found you. I don't know, beyond the probabilities, I also think I'm just developing an increasingly negative perception of men in general. I talk about this in previous episodes, but I have an incredible father who I think so highly of. This is also because I have an amazing mother who never said anything bad about him. She always like gassed him up to us and reminded us how great he was. So I inherently have a very positive perception of men. Like, I think they have good intentions, and that's why I give them so much empathy and so much grace and so much forgiveness, and I make a lot of excuses for them because I don't think that they're bad people. I don't know, I call it reverse daddy issues. But recently, both through my dating experiences and my friends' dating experiences, I fear I am beginning to reach the conclusion that men ain't shit. And what makes me sad about this isn't even just like the prospect of dying alone. It's the fact that I feel like my dating experiences have begun to like fundamentally change who I am as a person. Being single at 27, I'm always telling people like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't meet someone when I was younger because I've grown so much since then, which I have. But I honestly can't say the years of dating experience I've had have made me a better partner or a better person. Like, I had a stable father figure, so when I was 18, if a guy told me he cared about me, I would believe him. I had no reason not to. Now these guys have, barged into my life and gone out of their way to try and convince me they care about me and then strolled off with no explanation, like I never mattered. And so when I meet someone, I am just waiting for them to switch up on me. I'm so skeptical, and it's like you have to prove yourself to me, and all they ever end up doing is proving me right. But it makes me sad because that's not who I am. Like, I'm not distrusting or fear-driven or someone who operates out of self-preservation. Like, at my core, I'm pretty sure like I am a kind and giving and loving person. And when these men realize they fumbled and come back and apologize, I give them so much more empathy and grace than they deserve, because the apology does mean something to me. I guess because I'm trying to delusionally hold on to this idea that they did actually care about me and they just treated me like shit on accident. And because I want to stay true to who I am, but I feel like it is being beaten out of me. And look, I'm all for going through hard things to learn life lessons. I, for one, only learn things the hard way. But after a certain point, there is a law of decreasing marginal returns. Like, last few years, I don't feel like I've learned anything new. Just because I can see something coming doesn't mean it hurts any less. And I feel like I'm just being inched further and further from who I believe myself to be, and like just becoming more bitter and resentful. And at that rate, why would I not want to be single? Because I'm happy. I get to live in a world where people mean what they say and people treat me the way I deserve to be treated, and everything makes sense and I feel safe. Like, I like it here. And I mean, I keep putting myself back out there because it's supposedly a high risk, high reward situation. And once I meet the love of my life, I'm going to look back and think that it was all worth it. But I am so tired and I'm so full of fear, and I don't know if I believe that anymore. Like, my conviction and that truth really falters with each passing day. I don't know, because I feel like the first few times a guy switched up on me, it genuinely surprised me. I took it really hard, but I also kind of held on to my core beliefs and bounced back. Like, I still always believed that they were good people and they had just been irresponsible with their words and actions. But what I realized with this person I met recently, and I literally saw him like 3.5 times, which is why I say that recent events are not actually important. It's more so what it triggered. When I met him, I realized I am actually still carrying around with me all the past pain I've experienced. Like, at some point, I think I stopped bouncing back, because from the moment I realized that I liked this person, before anything bad even happened, I was in a state of like constant low level anxiety. And this I am actually so scared to admit on the internet, but I mean, that's literally the title of this episode. Basically, I had like no appetite and I couldn't sleep through the night and I could not figure out what was wrong. I literally was texting my sister, who's a doctor, asking if I should go to an endocrinologist and like see if something was wrong with my hormones. It was only much later that I realized I was basically in fight or flight mode, not because I liked this man so much. That would actually be really embarrassing. No, but because I don't like people very often. It happens once every 2 to 3 years. And so even though I barely knew him, I was like, you have the potential to be someone I really like, which means you have the potential to affect my happiness and my mental well-being and, you know, potentially hurt me. And that made me feel so radically unsafe. Like, I was in a really bad place when I was back in the Bay Area before I moved to New York. And I've been fairly stable since then because, you know, I kind of figured out my career stuff. I love what I do, so my job is not making me depressed anymore. But it's also because, like, I haven't been dating, or I have, like, I've gone on a decent number of first dates, but I didn't find anyone that I liked enough where I felt like they could have any meaningful impact on my happiness. And so in that sense, my peace was protected. And then I met this whack man and I realized I am actually not that healed. And the problem is, like, this is what I've been freaking out about a bit recently, is that I can't really heal this on my own. Like, obviously I can take time to move on from this and I can take a break from dating and I can try to learn to practice detachment and all this stuff. But I'm not going to eradicate my fear of men changing their mind about me if they keep changing their mind about me. Like, I will inherently have that fear every time I meet someone until I meet someone who actually does stick around. And that just scares the shit out of me, because if that's the situation, like, why would I want to keep putting myself out there? That's terrifying. And so that's why I've been kind of like receding into my safe, happy single bubble and basically just like trying to get my life back to where it was before I met this person, right? Because I was like having a great summer and I feel like I was in a good place. But what I've been realizing literally in the last like 48 hours, and this is another thing that I really hate to admit, when I do get a glimpse of romance, it makes my beautiful, peaceful, single life look a little bit flat and gray. Like I mentioned, I don't find someone I like very often. So when I do happen upon this rare occurrence and, you know, I get to spend time with that person even for a little bit, it brings a type of joy to my life that I honestly kind of forgot even existed. And look, I know the excitement of meeting someone new is like so far from the reality of a long-term relationship, but let's not pretend that being in love and being in a romantic relationship is not a completely different experience from like familial love or platonic love. And it's this entire world that I don't really know. I feel like I've dipped my toe into it, or like I've been splashed by it. Like I'm in the splash zone at SeaWorld, but I don't actually know it. I haven't lived it. I don't have residence in that neighborhood. And I am so fucking scared that I will never get to. And I think the past 2 years when I was protecting my peace or whatever, I started becoming accustomed to my life without a man. Honestly, I kind of distracted myself from the fear of dying alone with work. Like, I enjoy content and I do not struggle to put a lot of time and energy into it. So I was just like using that to fill the void. But recently I have been feeling the void again. It haunts me. And I think I've more or less detached from like this person and this situation. Like I've accepted that I thought someone cared about me and I was wrong, and that a man can lie and I'm not a foolproof judge of character. Like effectively I got played, and that sucks, but I've accepted all that. Well, I don't know. I'm like in the process of accepting it. But what is harder to move past is this like renewed reminder of the life experiences that I haven't had, because now, I don't know, I feel like this one little micro dose of romanticness, it made my beautiful, blessed life that I am so deeply grateful for. It made it feel like this is not enough. And I hate saying that because it's just a stupid thing to say, but it is how I feel at the current moment. I don't know. There are a lot of things that I hate admitting about being single. Oh my God, another one has just occurred to me. This one is probably going to piss you guys off, but basically, you know how like when couples grow old together, they say that like they don't really notice each other aging because they kind of always see the face of the person when they met, like when they were young. And I always thought I would be able to accept the inevitability of aging because the person I spent the rest of my life with would more or less remember me from when I was young. And I understand that I am 27. I'm not fucking like decrepit, but I thought that I would like find my person and get my wedding photos and do all this before I could see meaningful signs of aging. And I'm sure you guys are like, bro, what signs of aging? It's like, it's happening. It's not that noticeable, but like wrinkles are happening and things are sagging, which is totally normal. What I will say is that I am continuing to get better at like my hair and makeup. So at least when I look at old photos, I still look better now. Like I look younger in my older photos, but I also look bad. I'm netting on a positive trajectory, okay? But I am spiraling a little bit about the love of my life not knowing 25-year-old me. I don't know. It sounds so stupid. Speaking of youth, this is a topic I have never been able to talk about without crying, but we're gonna try. I know there is no urgency to find my husband. I'm only 27, but I'm going back to China soon to see my grandma, and she was here with us from when I was in kindergarten through high school, and my parents both worked full time. So we spent a lot of time together. We're really close, and I always thought she was going to meet the man that I was going to marry. Like, I was a kid, so it never occurred to me that she wouldn't get to. Not only that, but when I imagined bringing a guy back to my family, I always imagined him meeting my grandma. Obviously my parents too, but I feel like that's more contentious because it's like, are they gonna like him? With my grandma, it's just like a very pure moment. And that's why I held on to this pipe dream of finding a guy who spoke Chinese, because then they could have a relationship and that would mean a lot to me. Although I will say my Chinese brothers have been doing me dirty recently, so I think I need to let go of that one. But my grandma's in her late 80s now, and I continue to be very picky, yet still pick the worst possible men. So I feel like I need to accept the fact that she's not going to get to meet him. And she doesn't say it outright. Like every time I go back, she's like, oh, 下次回来一定要带个男人让个这个面. Like, you know, next time you got to bring a guy for me to meet. And I'm like, trust me, you don't want to meet the ones that I'm finding. And like, I know it's a dying wish of hers to see me settle down and happy and know that I have someone taking care of me. And I know it's not my fault, but it feels like I'm failing her because I would do anything to make her life feel more complete before she has to leave. And this is just something that I don't have control over, no matter how hard I try. Like, I joke about hiring someone to pretend to be my boyfriend, but it's becoming less and less of a joke because it would make her feel so happy, and I just feel so helpless, and I feel like my life is so far from what I had envisioned it would be at this age. And I know that that is normal. Like, we all think we're gonna have a mortgage and 3 children and 2 dogs and a picket fence at 26, and instead we're like in line for the club at 2 a.m. getting ghosted by a man named Chad. But I don't know. I hate that this is one thing I feel like I really don't have control over. Like, I am the type where I will solution and make a plan and work hard to get the things I want in life. And this is just not an area where I can apply that philosophy and that work ethic. Trust me, I've tried. I've really played the numbers game, and, you know, clocked in the hours and did all that. Obviously it hasn't worked. And that actually reminds me of another thing that I hate about being single at 27, or just in general, like being the single friend. I've ranted about this on TikTok before, but if you try and complain about your dating life or being in the trenches, everyone has to hit you with the, it happens when you least expect it. Like, bitch, I stopped expecting that shit like 5 years ago, so it should be here any freaking day now. And then, you know, when you try and decenter dating and like leave it in the hands of the universe, they're like, how do you expect to meet someone when you literally don't leave your apartment, which is kind of a valid point of criticism. But then, you know, you can't find anyone you like, and they're like, your standards are too high. And then you do find someone you like and they see a photo of what he looks like and they're like, girl, you need to find some standards. And it's just like, you can't win. My favorite is when your happily cuffed friend is like, being in a relationship is so overrated. Being single is so fun. You should enjoy it. Like, girl, if it's so fun, why don't you come and join me in the streets? We can freeze together, okay? You too can be breadcrumbed by a man who looks like my literal left big toe. I think if your single friend is complaining about it being rough out there, the only acceptable thing to say is like, I know the streets are rough and I really feel for you, but you are literally so sexy that I think you're going to prevail despite the odds being severely stacked against you. That actually doesn't sound very uplifting, so maybe give that a slightly more positive spin, but don't say anything else after that, please. By the way, this is not a subtweet at any of my friends. Like, my friends don't say stuff like this because, well, clearly it would piss me off. I don't know, like when my other single friends complain to me, I try and tell them that I believe it's going to happen for them, but I honestly don't even know if I believe it, because in previous generations, most people got married, but I feel like it's because they kind of had to, so they just settled eventually at some point. If we're talking about like actually compatible, romantic, in love, functional kind of marriages, ain't no way everyone's getting that. I mean, you've seen the divorce rate, and I don't believe that there is someone for everyone. Like, I don't think that's true. Some people will never meet the love of their lives, and I am afraid that that is me. Okay, I feel like I've been talking for 4,000 years, and honestly, I don't even think I've scratched the surface, which is like really concerning for me. But I feel like I should start to close this out, and I feel like it's become increasingly bleak, so I'm going to try and like end on a more positive note. Not that that is my specialty or anything. I don't know. When I get down about the dating situation, these are the thoughts that I find mildly comforting. So maybe they'll be helpful for you. It's the best that I have. Just imagine how it'll be when you find the right person. Like someone who does what they say they'll do and who like teaches you new things to love about yourself instead of making you question your self-worth, and who really sees you and who makes loving you seem like the easiest thing in the world. Because once you find that person, you are going to look back and laugh about the men or women or they thems that you used to cry about. And you're going to understand that you were never too much, and you were never asking for too much, and you were always prepared to love and be loved. Like you were ready, you just hadn't found the right person. And you're gonna wish that you hadn't wasted all these tears and all this time. And you're gonna wish that you had enjoyed the privileges of single life, like sleeping alone in your big bed, not having someone that you have to text every day, not having to plan like surprise birthday parties and buy stupid like Valentine's Day and anniversary gifts. Like, you have so much time and freedom, and you have so much love to give that you can just give to yourself right now or to the people around you who actually deserve it. And I mean, you know, you should try and get out there and meet people if you feel up to it, but don't put a ton of pressure on yourself. And as soon as you feel like it's triggering or it's scary or it's draining, like, just be kind to yourself and take a break. There's no rush. Well, I don't know if I believe in true love. I do believe that no one who's meant to be in your life will leave it. And the people who are meant to be in your life will find you and will stay. Like, things will pan out as they should. Everything will be okay. 27 is so young. Life is so long. In 10 years, I'm going to look back and be like, that bitch is so stupid. Actually, I do think that about myself right now. But in 10 years, I'm going to look back and be like, that bitch is so young and stupid. Okay, that's actually all the positivity I have in me. So, you know, take it or leave it. I love how I said on Instagram, like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm prepared to overshare again on the internet. Like, obviously, I had no issue doing that at all. As always, I hope me admitting all this embarrassing stuff is not for nothing and that, you know, it's relatable for my single friends. And for those of you who are happily cuffed, I hope you take this as a reminder to count your blessings. I love you guys so much. I want you to know that when I was really going through it the last 2 months, I would literally go read my YouTube comments because you guys are so, so kind to me and actually make me feel like the baddest bitch on earth, which I also am. Let me know what you want me to talk about in future episodes. Maybe some more lighthearted topics, because clearly I only know how to choose heavy hitters. And yeah, that's it. I love you guys. Catch you next time. Bye.
You left the kitchen light on and it's 2 to go there. It's better.